friggin'. Yeah, we have a panic attack, and then we'll add Lindy in.
I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they have the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get this sword.
Okay. All right. So we've got Lindy in the building. He's got a all right. Lindy's got his camera on. Don't worry, folks.
How does Kyle typically start this? What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are having a good day. I had one yesterday. I think it's something like that.
That is how he starts.
That is how he starts.
I had one yesterday. I only had one. I only had 2 bets. I went 1-1, but my bigger bet hit, which is nice.
There we go.
I thought about 84 other bets, but I did not place those. There's one bet that is tracked to my name. And everybody in YouTube, hello.
That's how it went.
Pretty much,
We have we're filling in today for of course for Cal, and we're going to do a great job. Let's get right into it. I really only had one play yesterday, and it was the first half under between Toronto and the Orlando Magic, and that was sweaty in the beginning of the first quarter, but it slowed down, and that was a winner. So 1-0 day for myself. We got a bunch of games on the board. I think it's 9 games on the board for today. Let's just jump right into it. Let's do it.
Let's party.
What we got? We got Detroit and Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
Detroit and Atlanta. I will go last. I'll just introduce the games. I'll kick it to Lindy, and then we'll go Moda, and then I'll come back and give you guys my thoughts and if I have any official plays.
Alrighty.
How lovely is that? I'm actually on something here. I'm on the under of 3.5 threes for Trae Young. Basically, Jalen Johnson's going to be in or out, and it's going to either benefit me or it's going to hinder me. But I mean, this is just kind of like market-based plays at their best. You have Penny sitting at -170, you have DraftKings at -130, just kind of as like an outlier number. And then you kind of dig into a little bit of the data where Trae Young's traditionally around a 35% three-point shooter for his career. Over the course of the last 5 games for the Hawks, he's shooting closer to 40%. So it's pretty unsustainable by his standards. I think that whenever you get like these specific spots where Trae Young, if he's going to be chucking it 12 times with Jalen Johnson out of there, I'm probably in a little bit of trouble. And obviously the numbers wouldn't be working my direction, but 50-50 basically on that Q tag. I know he didn't play last time out, but I think for me, just kind of looking at where Penny's sitting at, seems like it hasn't moved for the last hour or so. So for me at -130, I think that's a pretty decent prop to get your card going.
I like it. Trae has not been great shooting a 3-point shot. Go ahead, Moda. What you got?
Well, I was just going to say, Trae's like an overrated 3-point shooter just because he hits it from deep, but he's never been like Steph, who shoots for volume and will have those games where it goes like 7 of 9. That's just not how Trae does it. So I took Jalen Duren. I took him on the double-double. Right now, the best offered price is technically $135 at ESPN Bet and Fanatics. But sometimes if you build out 10 plus points, 10 plus rebounds on Bet365, they give you a better number. So I would check that, because last time I checked that, it was plus 150. I have a couple plays like this today that normally go against what I like, because it's not like you're betting on something. He's done it 4 straight games. I think he's had a double-double in 4 straight games. This is really just a play on the matchup. Hawks 8th worst defense in the NBA in terms of points in the paint. They're allowing the 8th most. And Jalen Duren, when he's playing teams that can't guard the paint, has scored 10 or more points in 7 of 11 games against teams in the bottom 10 in terms of points in the paint. Now, 2 of those games in which he missed, he played limited minutes, 13 minutes, 11 minutes in 2 of them. Those both happened against the Sixers. I don't think he was in foul trouble. I don't really know why, but he didn't play in those games. If you just look at games in which he's played 20 minutes, and then also bottom 10 guarding points in the paint, he's done it in 6 of 8 games. And he's played 20 minutes in every single game since December. So it's been like 7 weeks of him getting at least 20 minutes. And then as far as rebounding goes, that this is probably what I'm more confident on is the rebounds. He's been really good from a rebounding perspective recently, 19 rebound chances in 7 of his last 10 games. And if you look at the matchup, according to Props Madness, 10 of 14 centers, similar to Jalen Duren in terms of their rebounding profile, have gone over against the Hawks. And that includes a couple guys that, like Anthony Davis, got double-digit rebounds, just didn't hit his over-under in terms of what his rebounds was priced at. So yeah, I like the matchup a lot. I love the price. When I locked it in, it was plus 150. I think you can still get that again if you build it out separately, 10 plus points, 10 plus rebounds. But yeah, Jalen Duren double-double.
if you want to know that Philly game, I was on the double-double for like plus 250, and he had 6 fouls in 11 minutes. Way to go.
Oh, so it was foul trouble.
It was like at the end of October. I remember it well. You get scarred from stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Probably why, I have grayer hair than I should at this age.
Just want to read a comment from Kyle Kirms, who's in the air right now. Somehow, Modai's analysis is even worse at 36,000 feet, 3 Johnny Walkers deep. So
I was actually going to give Chris a compliment, because whenever Kyle gives this point and then he just stops talking, he says it's on you guys to figure out which order you're going to go in. Even though the host is kind of supposed to direct the conversation, Chris, he's doing this for 6 minutes, gives us the order. Great host. Great job from Chris. Kyle should take notes.
Yeah, every other game, though, you have to at least come in and be like, talk me into something here. Give me a play here.
I got a couple of those. I got a couple of those lined up already.
Okay, just keep those in the chamber, ready to rock. Have another Johnny Walker, Kyle. We got you covered.
Enjoy the show, Kyle. Sit back, get some popcorn with your Johnny Walker. Enjoy the show, man.
I thought it was lovely analysis for it.
I do, too. I do, too. Good job, Moda. So the way I'm looking at Detroit and Atlanta is, I think it's a very, very difficult game to handicap on the side. Detroit is Atlanta is in a revenge spot. I always think about the Pistons as having 2 big brothers. One of them is the New York Knicks, which they can never beat. And the other one has been the Atlanta Hawks. I think Atlanta had beat them 7 straight times before Detroit was able to get a win in their last year. It was 7 straight times before Detroit was able to get a win. They beat them 122-121. Cade had a really good game. He had 22 points, 13 assists, and 11 rebounds back in that game. Jalen Johnson had 20 and 9. So as Lindy mentioned, it's going to be difficult for them to win. I think without him here, it's also a very, very bad travel spot for Atlanta here. Atlanta has played 9 of their last 10 games on the road, and it's the first leg of a back-to-back. They got Toronto coming to town tomorrow. So while I think Detroit can win the game, I do think the point spread is a lot smaller than what I would like. If this was 4.5, I think I would be inclined to jump in. So I stayed off of the game. I do lean over. One of the biggest things that jumped out to me from a trends perspective is that Atlanta is actually, their opponents are actually 10-0 to the over if they're a home favorite. They've been a home favorite 10 times. Every single opponent has gone up and over their team total. I said Detroit scored 122 the last time that these two teams played. Their team total today is sitting around 115.5. Both of these teams have been a lot better last 5 games defensively, but I can see that kind of going out of the window in this one. So lean over for me. I'm probably going to stay off the side, though.
Okay, I did take the total at 235.5 yesterday. For what it's worth, I like the under of that. I'm obviously under on Trey, so obviously there's something there too. But for me, it's just unsustainably good shooting by a guy who, and Trae Young also, he's been up like closer to 40% usage over their last 5 games. It's just been insane. There's negative regression coming towards a lot of these numbers. So that was kind of the main thing for me, is that when you have somebody who's a catalyst for the offense that kind of way, and I'm on the under of that, it makes sense that in the same data, I'm getting under 235.5.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Okay. I like that. And I wrote the Trae Young under 3.5 threes. That makes a ton of sense. Not even a market I checked. Let's move over to the next one. What we got next?
All right. We got the Suns at Brooklyn, a heater.
Oh, this is an absolute heater. I think the spread's just growing by the second here. I think it's up to 27.5. But Lindy, any thoughts on the Brooklyn Nets facing the Brooklyn Nets on the second leg of a back-to-back facing the Phoenix Suns coming off a 26-point beatdown in Cleveland the other day?
I mean, it's just insane. We have no D'Lo, no Ben Simmons, no Cam Johnson. Dennis Schroeder was shipped off out of town. Cam Thomas is still out. Shake Milton's in LA wasting away on a bench. And now Zaire Williams is also out. It's really hard to get any kind of a sample size, but what I can do is just kind of like have a basketball brain where I look at, who could actually handle the basketball? If you watched the game yesterday, Tyrese Martin basically just like sits in the corner and waits for somebody to initiate the offense. Normally that's Dennis Schroeder, sometimes Ben Simmons, but I mean, Tyrese Martin's played decently well for them, but he's not really going to be doing it. They also have this Beekman fellow, this Reese Beekman fellow who used to be on Golden State once upon a time. Don't know a ton about him, but it's basically the Keon Johnson show. Like, he's going to be running the point here for them. It's really hard to get a sample size that you actually like in terms of the pieces on the floor together. But since the year turned over, 153 minutes without Russell Simmons, Cam Thomas, and Cam Johnson on the floor, and the guy's got a 25.3% assist rate. So I'm on the over of 3.5 assists at even money, and I'm on it pretty heavy. I feel pretty good about Keon Johnson, no matter what the game script is. Yesterday, he played 27 minutes. It's the second leg of a back-to-back, but I just don't see anybody else in this offense who can generate any sort of offense. It's probably going to be ugly, but even in like a 15, 18-point game, I feel like you just still have Keon Johnson out there by default. So at 3.5 assists, it's a low number in my opinion.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, somebody has to handle the ball handling duties, and both of the primary ball handlers are gone. The other ones that they had are all shipped away. And then that game that they played last, because this is a revenge game for Phoenix, Brooklyn actually beat them 127-117 as a 9-point dog earlier this season. But that game also had Dennis Schroeder, like you mentioned, Lindy. He had 29 points and hit 4 threes. Dorian Finney-Smith was still on the team, and Tyrese Martin actually hit 8 threes in that game and had 30 points. So they're gonna need a little bit of that magic. Modi, you got anything for us here?
I only have a lean. I didn't bet this one. It didn't make my official plays, but I like the look of Ryan Dunn, 10 plus points. You can get that plus 120 at FanDuel. He's been playing a lot more recently, even in games that Beal is back. His minutes are consistently like 15 to 18 minutes, which isn't amazing, but somebody needing to score 10 points, that's fine. Play 20 minutes last time, game they lost by 26. 29 minutes the game before, then 30, 22, 27. So more often than not, he's above 20. But even if we get like the 15 to 20 mark, that's fine. It's all about the matchup. 44% of his points come via spot up. The Nets are the 4th worst defense in the NBA guarding spot up shooters. The next percentage is via transition, 21% of his points. The Nets are the 3rd worst transition defense in the NBA. They're one of the worst defenses guarding the corner, and about a little over 30% of Ryan Dunn's shots come from the corner. It's an excellent matchup for him. If this game turns into a blowout, he'll probably play a little bit more than the main guys will. And again, we're just asking him to score 10 points here. If you look at players with his position, according to Props Madness, 12 of the last 15 have gone over against the Nets by an average of 3.7 points above what their over-under is priced at. So it's an awesome matchup for him. It's a good price at plus 120. There are just other plays that I like a little bit better, which is why I didn't bet it. But yeah, this would be a lean for me.
Nice. Okay. I won't stay on this game for too long because what I played is completely gone now. And that was the Brooklyn Nets team total. I got it at 104.5 this morning. Was going through and just kind of, reading what the beat reporters were saying about the game. I knew it was a terrible spot for Brooklyn with a second leg of a back-to-back, but not only is it second leg of back-to-back, this is actually 6th game in 9 nights with no rest. Also 7th game in 11 nights against, with a Brooklyn team that's already bottom 5 in offensive efficiency. So it was pretty easy for me to want to take that. I wanted to get ahead of the injury report. I felt like these guys were going to be rolled out. So I did play under 104.5. That number's down to, I think, 100 now, 100.5. I see some popping up out there as well. But yeah, 7-1 to the under out of Nets, playing unrested. They're averaging a bit under 103. And Phoenix has been playing faster, but they're bottom 10th in pace just on the road in general. They actually 25th in pace. So it was Nets team total under for me, but that number is now by far gone. What we got next, Prop?
All right. So for the next game, we got the T-Wolves at Mavericks. Now just making sure your screen did black out for a moment. Both of you everybody could see each other still? Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Sounds good.
All right. So we got T-Wolves. They will be in Dallas tonight. Lindy, how you feeling about this one? We got the injury news, of course, that Lively's going to be out for some time. I think Clay is still listed as questionable from what I saw. A bunch of guys on the injury report for Dallas here. Minnesota, both teams coming off a loss on MLK Day on Monday. How you feeling about this one, Lindy?
I mean, I'm kind of obsessed with this play. Daniel Gafford, I was on it pretty heavy against Charlotte. He ended up just eviscerating Mark Williams, was on the double-double plus 200. I'm a little surprised to see we're getting the same price here. So there have been 10 games so far this season where the Mavericks haven't had Derek Lively out there. Daniel Gafford has only gone for less than 23 minutes in one of them, and it was against Oklahoma City. I think we can all put the pieces together. Oklahoma City, one of the better teams in the NBA at going small and forcing opposing bigs off the floor so that they don't have to deal with rebounding. They get them these track meets, and they just beat the living snot out of them. But Daniel Gafford right now is at 20. Where did it go here? I wanted to see the updated number because I got it at plus 120, 24.5 PRA is the official number on that one. You can get, there's points plus rebounds that look advantageous on pick'em sites, depending on wherever you're looking. But when you're talking about 9 of 10 here, when you shore up the minutes for Daniel Gafford, do I think he's a good real life player? No, but he is very similar to, those typical bigs that go in with a decent enough rebound rate, just find ways to get it done. He's only had 2 double-doubles. They've come in 2 of the last 3 here, and those being without Lively in those lineups specifically. But with Lively out here for quite a while, it sounds like 2 to 3 months now, we're going to be talking about Daniel Gafford here. And I see these kind of numbers getting up to like 28.5, 29.5. Maxi Kleber has been behind there, and he's traditionally been somebody that get into these like small ball situations. There's like maybe a 10-15% chance that you see Naz Reid just run the 5 there at the end of that game. But between Randall, Reed, and then Rudy Gobert, who's the main guy you want to have out there for as many minutes going up against Daniel Gafford, just so that he stays out on the floor, I think there's enough bigs there where I feel pretty confident about those minutes. And don't forget, Dwight Powell doesn't sound like a big deal, but he's out as well for this one. So I think there's just so many ways where if you get these guaranteed minutes with the usage, we've just seen him go completely nuclear here in a couple of games, 30 and 34 minutes against the Pelicans and Charlotte here with a traditional big. Oh, there's another traditional big on the other side in Gobert. I just love this play.
Nice. I like that one too. I think that was a perfectly good, great breakdown there. What about you, Moda? What you thinking?
I didn't go back to the Gaddy, but I do have a play in this one. Kyrie Irving, 30 plus points, plus 180 at bet 365. Mainline over under is 25.5 or 26.5, depending on where you look. Obviously, everybody knows I'd rather take that pumped up price when it makes sense, and I do think it makes sense for Kyrie. Admittedly, like, this is not a hit rate play. If you look at props.cash, you look at props madness, outlier, whatever, you're not going to be impressed with Kyrie Irving. Even in games without Luka, his scoring has not really gone up the way you would expect. This is all about a play based on the matchup. He's played the Timberwolves twice this year, scored 30 points in both those games. Played the Timberwolves 6 times last year, scored 30 points in 4 of those 6 games. 5 of them were in the playoffs, but the one that he did go over in the one regular season game last year against the Timberwolves. Now, Luka played in all those games, except for the Christmas one, where I think Kyrie scored 39 is the game.
Oh, you hate to see it.
You still hear me?
Yeah, I still hear you.
Okay,
I think it's just Modai.
Just know that, yeah. He probably cut out.
No, not the Gaddy.
Yeah, right on the Gaddy. Stuck on the
fucking Gaddy, bro. All right. Wow.
So while we wait for Modai to rejoin us, I do like Minnesota in the spot. It was actually the first thing that I locked in yesterday. I think I took this right after I finished the show yesterday. So around about 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I just feel like the line opened at 1.5. Then I started to see it start to move. It's up to 3.5 now. Of course, that is with the news that, Derek Lively is going to be out and potentially Clay not playing. I'm just looking at a Minnesota team that, it's currently constructed is a lot better than this Dallas Mavericks team. I know the Minnesota Timberwolves are not a good team, laying a bunch of points on the road. I typically like to take them as dogs, but this is a team that has playoff revenge from last year. They've already beat the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas on Christmas with Luka and Kyrie, and they're also coming off a loss. I like the Timberwolves coming off a loss versus coming off a win. They're actually coming off back-to-back losses. They lost to Cleveland as well over the weekend and then lost again. So I like them, having, they're going to be pretty relatively healthy outside of Dante DiVincenzo not being there. I don't like that it's a 4th game in 6 nights, but I do think that they have enough. This Dallas Mavericks team is going in the opposite direction. They're 7-3 to the under last 10 games, not able to really score the ball without Luka down there. They've been a good rebounding team, but without Lively there, I think they're going to struggle to do that as well. And the one thing that Minnesota has going for them is that they're shooting the ball really well. If you look at the Dallas Mavericks defense, they're not guarding really well at all. They just lost to Charlotte on Monday. So only 2-8 against the spread in their last 10 games. I do think Minnesota can win this game. They should win it by at least 2 possessions. So I would play it for a smaller, unit size, but I did play this pretty heavy yesterday at -1.5. Actually was my favorite play on the board before all the injury news. Modai, can you, yeah, you're good now. You want to finish?
Oh, okay. He's back. The way our messages went, I thought he was going to be gone for quite a bit.
You got to get put on the screen first.
Yeah.
I was talking for 10 minutes, making the best point of my life. I come back to the stream. I was looking at my notes. I realized my internet had just crapped out. So I don't know where you guys left me or where I left you guys.
No, you were pretty deep into it. I'm not gonna lie and act like I remember the last word you said, but
Kyrie Irving points, and then it was pretty much the end of that. So I'm ready to rock.
I'll be quick. Kyrie Irving points. He's done it in 2 games against Timberwolves this year, 4 of 6 last year. 9 of 11 players with Kyrie's scoring profile have hit their point prop over against the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves defense is awesome. There are only really 2 categories where they're below average. It's guarding isolation. It's guarding pick and roll ball handlers. They're 19th in both those categories. That's perfect for Kyrie. Makes sense why guys of his player type go over. So to me, it made way more sense just to take the pumped up number at 30 plus when you're getting plus 180 odds.
There we go.
Nice. Okay. Little Kyrie love. I like it. I could definitely see him. I mean, he's going to have to do pretty much everything. I mean, you got Spencer Dinwiddie out there relying on. So
Precisely.
Oh yeah, it should be a good matchup for him.
That's enough of a reason right there. All right, we got the Jazz and OKC, 16.5 point spread here.
Boy. Lindy already shaking his head. Lindy, coming to you first. What we doing with the Utah Jazz? They at least got the guys rolled in right after going to Utah just to eat at the buffet, the all-you-could-eat seafood buffet, because they didn't touch the floor. None of the starters did. So they should be relatively healthy, even though they're coming off an overtime game. What anything you're even considering in this one?
I mean, I might just tail. I saw a lot of sharp people that I respect that were on over 9.5 rebounds plus assists for Jalen Williams. That's YLIN Jalen Williams. So I'm thinking that might just end up being a tail for me, just to throw something out there. I had a lean on the over here in this one, but I'm just really not in love with anything in this game whatsoever. Haven't seen that total really move at all. It just kind of makes me nauseous here overall. Obviously, we'll get to a game that has a 12.5 point spread coming up with Charlotte Memphis that I'm a lot more interested in. I think from a prop perspective, where there's a lot of things that make sense, but this is one that I just don't see anything that I'm remotely interested in betting.
Nah, no way I can doubt you there. What about you, Moda? Anything you like it?
Yeah, I do have one. I actually had 2 plays in this one, but the odds got nuked on one of them. It was John Collins over his PR. So if anybody wants to tail that, I got 19.5. It's 20.5 now. But the one that you could still get a good price, actually better than what I got, is SGA over 6.5 assists. This is another one similar to the Duran double-double, where like he's been so hot in this that normally I'd be off it, but it's just based on the matchup. We've targeted the Jazz defense all year for point guard assist props. 9 of 12 players similar to SGA have hit their assist prop over against the Jazz. It was the same thing last year, like same coaching staff, similar roster. They're just a sieve for point guard assist props. And SGA has hit this number in 4 of his last 5 games against the Jazz, dating back to last year. The one game he missed, he had 6 assists on 17 potential assists. And if you just look at those 5 games, his potential assists in those games, so one of them he had 10, which is not what we would want. The other 4, 17, 15, 15, and 13. If we can think of 13 as his floor, which does feel pretty safe, 4 or 5 games in a good matchup, he's gone over 6.5 assists in 13 of 18 games in which he's had 13 potential assists. He averages about 7.5 in those games. Obviously, there's a correlation there. The more potential assists you have, more often than not, you're going to have actual assists. So it is kind of looking at the numbers a little bit in my favor. But in the matchup, I think that the 13 number is safe. And the matchup is good in itself. Again, 4 of his last 5 games.
Okay. Yeah, I looked at this one last night. And first thing I always do when I'm handicapping NBA is check the injury report, of course. And I saw Jalen Williams, the good one. Then I saw Walker Kessler. Not Walker Kessler, John Collins and Lauri Markkanen. And then I saw 17.5. And I said, yeah, it's a bunch of other games I'd rather talk about. So I didn't really dive too deeply into this one. I can make strong cases, I guess, for both. I kind of want to see what the sample size looks like as it grows for OKC without having a big, because we know one thing that the Utah Jazz can do is they can rebound the basketball. So, potentially Utah gives them a little bit of trouble here. OKC did blow them out the last time that they played. They beat them 133-106. They covered it as a 13.5 point favorite. But, Utah is not trying to win games, but they're accidentally covering games. They've covered 7 of their last 9. So that's a big number. You get a couple guys back here. It's enough to kind of keep me off of anything here. And both teams are actually, I think, on the first leg of a back-to-back. OKC got Dallas coming back tomorrow, which they could potentially be looking ahead to that game because they just lost to Dallas on Friday. And then I think for Utah doesn't have a back-to-back. But, yeah, it was enough for me to stay off of this one. The total got steamed up. It opened to 20.5. I think it's up to 232 now with all of those guys actually coming in. So I stayed off of the game. Maybe a Utah, nothing. I won't even make a lean in this game. We'll just pass this one on to the next. What we got up next, Bobby?
All right. So up next, we got Hornets, Grizzlies.
Hornets and Grizzlies. Okay. So Lindy said he had a look in this one. Talk to us, Lindy.
Yeah, so ended up on a single game parlay in this one. So I know the people really like that one. We're going to attach Charlotte. It was 12.5, sitting at 12 right now. I'm okay with that too. But when you get some of these prop drops, if you will, on a couple of these key players that are just baked in for major minutes if the game stays competitive, I feel really good about just attaching them together and hoping for the best. Those would be LaMelo Ball over 27.5 points, minus 104 on FanDuel. You could push that to 30 if you wanted to, Modi style. You could definitely do that. You could also go Mark Williams, 29.5, points plus rebounds, which I did play as the alt for this one to push it up over plus 500. You attach those all three together. So LaMelo, 27.5 points, the Mark Williams, 29.5 P plus R, and then the spread. I just think that's a better way of going about your single game parlays because, again, you're getting a discount on each of them based on what their usage has been over the course of the last few games, purely because we're expecting a game to just completely blow out. But if Memphis, which just brings pace to every single game, every single time out now, it's just getting ridiculous at this point in time. If this game stays competitive, they're going to fly over those type of numbers with their usage. I mean, LaMelo Ball, over the course of the last month, most usage in the NBA out of any core starter, just on NBA.com. And then looking at Mark Williams, completely different role. Nick Richards being sent off to Phoenix. That is obviously just shoring up those minutes long-term. Diabate's playing the backup minutes behind him, 15, 18 minutes. But I think he only got to 18 minutes last time out because Mark Williams had 4 fouls in 10 minutes. It was getting really, really stupid. So you want to talk foul trouble? That was foul trouble when the guy that you bet on is getting pulled out of the game at the 7-minute mark of the second quarter with his 4th foul. So we are looking at Mark Williams just having like some Hulk slams coming forward. He is just playing tons of minutes. He gets things done when he's on the floor. Pick and roll partner at times for LaMelo. This just makes sense putting them both together.
I could see it. Yeah, little LaMelo love. I saw Modi, kind of all his teeth were showing. He was smiling so hard when you said just up him to 30 points with a little Mark Williams in there as well.
If you want to push it, I did do the alt on Mark Williams because I looked at the rates, and I mean, he's like minus 170 to double. I mean, you're basically putting in like just implied odds on something like that. And I mean, obviously those are nuked. It's not a two-way market. So you gotta be careful about making that like a baseline, but boy, oh boy, do I like it. I really do kind of like that idea of a single game parlay because, hey, if one leg loses, if this game blows out, I don't really care. But if it stays competitive, which is kind of the narrative I'm telling with it, I like the idea of just taking the 2 core pieces along for the ride.
Yeah, okay. Now that makes a ton of sense. Moda, do you also like LaMelo, or what are your looks in this one?
No, I didn't take LaMelo. I took Miles Bridges. I took him 20 plus. I was just smiling because I love the thought. So Bridges, this is again like the third one where he's hit it in 5 straight games. He's hit it 9 of his last 11, which I'm normally scared off of. But the thing is, it's not like he's shooting an outlier percentage. That's kind of what I look into. If someone's just hit their number in 5 straight games, I'm like, all right, is he just shooting at a crazy high rate? It's just the volume. He's taken at least 14 shots in each of his last 11 games, and LaMelo's missed some time in there. So even if you just look at the last 11 games, specifically with LaMelo Ball in the lineup, it's 14 or more shots in every single game. His volume is almost the same. If we just pencil him in for 14 shots, he's hit that in 61% of his games overall, and about 65% of his games with LaMelo, averaging about 20.6 points per game. So I'm just basically betting he's going to have the same volume that he's had for 11 straight games. And the matchup is pretty good. The top 4 play types for Miles Bridges makes up like the majority of his points. Obviously, top 4, the Grizzlies range from the 3rd worst to the 11th worst defense guarding those play types: spot up, transition, free throws, and pick and roll ball handler. And the Grizzlies also play at the the fastest pace in the entire NBA. It's a track meet, which just leads to more volume. So like that 14 number is probably a safe floor for Bridges. We'll probably get up closer to like 15, 17, 18, something like that. And yeah, I'm just betting on that volume in a good matchup. And one of the games he missed in the last 11, he had 19 points against OKC, like a completely different defense. And the other game he missed was against the Cavs, another good defense. So this one just almost strictly volume play. And right now the best offer price on that is plus 105 at FanDuel.
Nice. Okay, so some Bridges love, some LaMelo love, some Mark Williams love. We don't got anything for the Memphis side, and I don't have anything for you guys for the Memphis side either. When I was looking into this game, the first thing that jumped out to me was actually a little bit of pain, man. I was on Memphis. For MLK Day, they were minus 3.5, and they just looked like a shell of themselves. Do I think that they can bounce back and beat this Hornets team by double digits? Absolutely do. Do I want to, put my money on it? No, I don't. It was some strong stuff on both sides that kind of kept me off. The first thing, I'll go with the Hornets. This is kind of their role. Like they are, you want to catch them, getting double digits. They're 10-5-1 against the number this season as road dogs. So that's about 66%. 15-12-1 against the spread with LaMelo actually in. It improves to 7-3-1 with LaMelo in their road dog. So they typically do cover a lot more than they don't with LaMelo in on the road. Couple losses. They had a 14-point loss to Cleveland, but everybody's losing to Cleveland by at least double digits. A 25-point loss to Orlando early this season. But the other 9 games, they all kept competitive and within this number. But then when I look at Memphis and I want to fade them and take the points with Charlotte, I look at Memphis when they didn't cover in their last game. They're both 11-3 straight up and against the spread if they didn't cover the next game. If you look at Memphis and they didn't cover the last game and they're also playing at home, they're 9-1 against the spread. They're winning by about 16 points per game. So it's a spot where I think I like what both of you guys said. Moda, I think if this game is going to be competitive, it's definitely going to be because Miles Bridges plays really, really good, because they also going to be without Brandon Miller here. So he's going to be out for the foreseeable future. It should be even more shots for all 3 of those guys that you guys mentioned. So no play for me here. I don't even know where I would lean, honestly. I think it's better spots on the board. Glad I don't have to force a play here. Prod Beaver, keep us going. What we got next?
All right. We've got next the Cavs Rockets. This is a good game.
This is a really good game. I'm interested to hear y'all thoughts on this one because I don't have a play, but I kind of want to make a play. Take it away, Lindy.
There we go. That's the Kyle line we need.
Yeah.
I mean, I hit the under pretty hard. It's efficient. These next 3 games that we're going to cover, they were all plays that I was on early yesterday. And somebody was complaining, oh, this turns into a prop show. Yeah, well, the props, there's a lot of surface area for a book to cover, and we can find more inefficiencies, and we want to make you money. So that's kind of the goal. Mm-hmm. But all 3, I'm on a total here. I'm on the under of, what did I get? 233.5 yesterday. It is currently at 228 best available. That's tough to stomach. That's really tough to just recommend with a straight face. So I got nothing at this point for you. I would lean towards that under still here. Just the defensive qualities of both of these teams. Obviously, no Evan Mobley changes the game a little bit here. You're probably looking at some reduced minutes. There's definitely something from a prop perspective that I can find here at some point in time. Just haven't found it yet. And we are just kind of like sitting here with Amin Thompson playing 40 minutes a night, it would appear. So Amin Thompson's just kind of trimming a little bit of everything because he's just a good basketball player. I looked at his 2.5 steals plus blocks for quite a while yesterday. Didn't end up pulling the trigger on it at even money, but just wanted to say big fan Amin Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I like. I think I don't know. Let's go to Modad. Modad, you got a player prop in this one?
I didn't bet it. It's just a lean. Oh, I liked Şengün rebounds. The Cavs. 8 of 11 centers, the last have hit their over. I think the reason why I'm off it, honestly, is because 2 of those 3 losses I've been on, and they all happened in the last 7 days. So I think that I know it's a good matchup. I just assume to always choose the wrong ones. Şengün's been rebounding decently, 17 of his last 30 games. He's hit 10 plus rebounds. He hits it about 62% of the time on the year. Best offer -110 at FanDuel. I just thought there was a little bit better plays on the board, so I didn't officially bet it, but that's where I would go if you wanted to bet this game.
Yeah, so it's a tough game for me too. It's a really, really tough game because I was on Phoenix on Monday. I took them plus the 8. Cal was on it with me as well. It was both one of our favorite plays on the board. And you watch Phoenix get absolutely mollywopped by Cleveland. Absolutely mollywopped. No Allen. I'm sorry, no Evan Mobley. They just get blown out of the water. And Cleveland is a team right now that I really don't want to fade. They are a couple things that kind of kept me off the total of taking it under. It's just how efficient their offense can be at times, and not just at times, but at times against really good teams. They've been a road favorite or played a road game against 5 teams so far this season that have a win percentage of 55% or better. So quality, good teams. They're 5-0 straight up, 5-0 to the over. All of those games have gone over by double digits. That scared the living hell out of me, enough to make me stay off of the game. I think with the spread, I saw it kind of coming down to 2.5. I think I would just lean Cleveland, even though they are without Jared Allen. I mean, even though they are without Evan Mobley, they'll have Jared Allen, excuse me. So I guess I'll lean there, but this is one that I kind of just want to watch. I just want to see how the game plays out. Maybe I'll jump in live. I know the biggest difference, in my opinion, between a Phoenix team and a Houston team is Houston's at home, of course, bounce back spot because they just lost to Detroit on Monday. But the Phoenix Suns are a team that, even with, the addition of Nick Richards, they still got out rebounded by 20 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't think that this Cleveland Cavalier team, without Evan Mobley, is going to be able to go into Houston and win the board. So that kind of kept me off of Cleveland, and I'm just kind of giving you guys my thought process of why I didn't play it. I think it's going to be a really, really good game, and one I'll just watch without having to, squirm or squeal or watch with one eye. So we'll just watch this one, at least for myself.
Beg Houston to trade Jalen Green at the deadline. Do anything you can. Go get another wing defender. Just do what you do, which is like Amin Thompson, Dylan Brooks. Keep these games in the low 210s, 205s. Like, I just love Houston. Get rid of Jalen Green. Send him to the Shadow Realm.
It's a good time to do it if you're going to do it, because he's been killing. I think he won Western Conference Player of the Week last week. Yeah, sell high. Yeah, absolutely. What we got next, Prabhu?
All right, we got Warriors Kings.
Warriors Kings. This is a very, very interesting one. I'm very interested to hear you guys' thoughts. What you got, Lenny?
Yeah, so I'm on a spread here. Golden State. I like the Golden State side of things. Steph Curry. I'm not a big narrative-based bettor, but I do remember that series that they had once upon a time, a lot of the same cogs in De'Aaron Fox, and obviously Domantas Sabonis out there for Sacramento. Some different faces, some rotation there. Malik Monk in the starting lineup. Always like seeing that. Some decent stuff in the assist rate for him that I was taking a look at. But no matter what, Golden State coming off of just kind of getting embarrassed against Boston there on MLK Day. And Steph Curry in these kind of spots. I mean, Dennis Schroeder hasn't fit in as well, I would say, right from the get-go here in terms of offensive, defensive rating with him on the floor for Golden State. You are absent like everybody playing the four: Kyle Anderson, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga. You're even absent Brandon Bajemski and Gary Payton can be out here as well. But this has still gotten bet down, and I agree with the line movement. I agree that it should be closer to that 7.5 type number. So I had this at 8.5 plus 8.5 on the Golden State side of things. Most of the fans in attendance, it's going to be a glorified home game here for the Warriors as well. It always kind of keeps things pretty neutral there going across the bay, but everything just really had to do with the opening number there for me. If you wanted to jump in at 7.5, don't blame you. I still think it's an all right number to be getting. Okay.
What about you, Modad? We got a total that actually was moving. I'll talk about the total in a second, but it actually opened and moved up. I think it opened 228 up to 230. What do you think about this one, Modad? Enough high enough for a total for you to find some player prop love here?
I didn't end up betting this one. There's like 3 leans that I had that I liked that I ended up just kind of saying I'm not going to try and pick which one. Both these defenses are terrible guarding spot up shooters. So there's going to be some value on a catch and shoot guy like Keegan Murray, or on the other side like Moses Moody or Andrew Wiggins. The Warriors, second worst team guarding spot ups. The Kings, the worst, literally the worst and the second worst. So on the Kings side, I like Keegan Murray. Over under 12.5, you can get a plus 100 at BetMGM. He's actually not a person that I would want to pump up to 15 plus, because he's landed on exactly 14 a bunch of times this year. That just seems to be his favorite number. But he's obviously one of the best spot up guys in the NBA. And then on the Warrior side, it'd probably be Moody between the two. He scores like the highest percentage of his points come from spot up of anybody on the Warriors. And that's kind of how you want to target the Kings. 40% of his shots come from the above the break 3-pointer Kings, so the 5th worst defense guarding that. And Moody's been pretty good recently. Obviously, with all the guys out, he's had to play more. But without Kuminga, he's gone over this number in 5 of his last 8 games. He's averaging about 10 points in that stretch as well, and his over/under is 10.5. So yeah, that's where I'll go between those two. As for leans, Murray and Moody, but I didn't bet either of them.
I will say one thing, just to piggyback off it quick. Just wait for the starting lineup. It's Steve Kerr. Like, wait for the starting lineup if you're going to play it. If you're going to play Moses Moody points, because I agree that would be the one that I would want to play. Just wait till you get the confirmed starting lineup, because you never know when it's Gui Santos day, when it's Gary Payton, who started last game against Boston. I mean, I can't tell you, because I play a lot of DFS on the fantasy side of things as well, Red Stochastic, but like, son of a bitch, Steve Kerr, figure your life out. For such an accomplished coach, and I mean, he should just be thankful every day that Steph Curry exists. That's really what it comes down to.
You know, it's so funny you say that, Lindy, because at the beginning of the season, right, it was like 400 players that he had to choose from, right? They couldn't nail down a rotation. Now
14-guy rotation one game. Right? 14.
So now you only got about 3 guys because of the injury report on the bench, and he still can't figure out a rotation. That's the most ironic part. So when I look at Golden State Sacramento, I do feel like Sacramento can win this game by double digits. The holdup here, and don't put up Sacramento for me, probably, but the holdup that I'm having here, and the reason why I didn't get there is because what Lindy mentioned. They're coming off a 40-point loss to Boston. I mean, it was belt to ass. Just this whack up every single time down the floor. It was pretty bad in that game. Also, you take into consideration. So you're coming off a 40-point loss, but you're also coming off a 30-point loss to the Sacramento Kings. The last time that these two teams played was earlier this month. I think it was on the 5th, and the Warriors were at home. They were 3-point dogs. They lost that game 129-99. So this game's going to tell me a lot about Golden State. Coming off a 40-point loss, 1 day of rest, short travel. I think last year in the playoffs for the play-in game, they took a bus to Sacramento. So no long travel at all, and they got absolutely smoked. That's enough to make me not play Sacramento here. I'll also add that it's been 10 teams so far this season that have lost by 40 points or more, and it's 7-3 in the next game. So they typically do cover the spread, and I know Lindy probably is happy to hear that. However, the Warriors are 2-8 against the spread without Kuminga this season. They've lost 7 of those games by 8 points or more. Their offense has been really, really poor. Last 5 games, they're 24th in offensive efficiency, 28th in pace. And Sacramento is playing that total opposite style. They're actually number 1 in pace over the last 5 games. I think without Pozinski out there, without Draymond, without Kuminga on the floor, you're looking at a Warriors team that's only averaging about 109 points per 100 possessions. They're giving up 118 in that same instance as well. I kind of feel like this is an under. Golden State on the road has typically been an under team. Their opponents are, I think, 10-1 to the under in the first half specifically. So Golden State first half under is the play that I am this close to getting to the window with. The total was continuing to go up earlier. Like I said, it opened 228 up to 230. You got the major revenge spot here. If Golden State comes out and they are the 24th most efficient team from the three-point line, because we know all they want to do is chuck threes, I still think that there's room for this game to go under because they'll bring it on the defensive end against the Sacramento Kings team. So that's my angle. After halftime, I could care less what happens, but I do think it's going to start with a little bit of defense here. And that's the way that I would play this one if I played it, but I haven't played it yet. Under first half, under 112.5, I think is the best number. Okay. Anything else for you guys to add? No,
I mean, that was like an amazing Tolstoy novel. I enjoyed that actually. and obviously it backed what I'm playing, so that's the even better part. So those are the trends I like, the ones that go for me.
Absolutely. We got one more, right?
Yeah, because of the cancellation in New Orleans, this is the last game on the board for us. Clippers, Celtics, and this is another big spread due to Powell being out as well. And some other questionables.
The whole team. It's everybody.
It's everybody.
This was my biggest play of the day. I bet Boston last night.
Me too.
We saw a couple, like last week it was Kawhi ends up resting on the front end of a back-to-back, and on the second ends up playing well. It seems like what the Clippers are doing is that if they're going to play a really, really good basketball team in OKC, a Boston, they're going to rest Kawhi and save him up for the second tail end, whichever is like the more targetable thing. We've seen this with Joel Embiid at times in Philly. So I definitely think that it's not like some new idea that a basketball team had, but I was pretty confident yesterday afternoon. Once that number came out, I was like, man, that seems a little bit low, and it's acting like Kawhi's going to be in. It's acting like, we're just giving for certain Norman Powell, James Harden. Sure enough, everybody popped up with a Q tag, and Chris Dunn already out as well. Their best on-ball defender. I don't think it's remotely close. So he's going to be sitting for this one, giving the likelihood of Derek White, Drew Holiday, if he plays through his Q tag. Otherwise, we know it's Peyton Pritchard season. James Harden's still sitting with the Q tag. But just to recap, Norman Powell's out, Kawhi Leonard's out, Chris Dunn's out, Ivica Zubats is out. It just became a glorified rest spot for them, and then they'll play them all against Washington just to get the banger before getting Friday off. Every team in the NBA plays Saturday except for 2, Oklahoma City and Portland. And then for whatever reason, they're the prelude into NFL. So thanks, NBA schedule makers, for being the stone cold woke this season. But I ended up firing up. I got Boston minus 8.5. I would still play this actually at 11.5. I do lean towards James Harden being out. I didn't even see what ended up showing up. I haven't updated the props in my sheet for this game. This is just absolutely as disgusting as it gets. But I mean, you could just correlate Peyton Pritchard points the same way I talked about before, where Peyton Pritchard goes out and just gets unlimited run in these kind of games where he should just be able to go shut it out. I'm projecting a lot of minutes for Terrence Mann, who I think steps into this starting rotation. He had been out of the rotation entirely, came back into it over to Kevin Porter Jr. They've had some injuries. So there's going to be a lot of prop goodness, I think, in this one once we get all of the numbers and all the dust settles. But for now, pretty clear cut for me, going to be Boston pretty heavy.
Like it. Modi, with all the injuries on the Clippers side, I think Modi already shaking his head. Chris,
No,
sorry, I'll see you tomorrow. I don't have anything.
Yeah, I got.
What you got?
No part. I want no part of this game.
No part at all. Okay. So I'm with Lindy. I was actually, I think, washing dishes yesterday when the news came out that Kawhi Leonard was going to be out and Zubac was right behind him, and I immediately jumped on the 6. Because
you got on the 6. You're a bastard.
Yeah, I got on the 6 at
God, I saw that number. I saw 5. There was a 5.5 available for a second. I couldn't do it. Couldn't get in time.
I did not see that, but yeah. So I jumped in on the 6 and sent it out. To be honest, I thought that some of the guys were going to play. Like I saw that Kawhi was out and that Zubac was out, but regardless, that's gone. That's neither here nor there. Porzingis is, of course, is still game time decision along with Jrue Holiday, like Lindy mentioned. I think the play that is still actionable here is James Harden under his assist prop. This was actually shared with me this morning on my show, and it was great analysis behind it. A lot of it due to him being an ISO type guy, and Boston doesn't double team. They play a lot of man to man. So you can take James Harden under his 8.5 assists. You can play it straight. I think it's like minus 145. It was minus 150 when I played it. So I parlayed it with the Suns money line to just to kind of reduce the juice. I'm expecting the Suns to win as a 14-point favorite, given the stakes of the Brooklyn Nets right now. So that was like minus 106. I think that is still actionable info and absolutely playable for anybody who wants to tell. James Harden under 8.5. I'm not sure who he's even going to pass the ball to tonight. So I like that play a lot. And that's all I got for this game specifically, especially given the line move. I will say that Boston does play the Lakers tomorrow. I think that is a nationally televised game. So there's something to kind of take into consideration as well. And that is going to wrap up NBA, right, Prop?
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming on and hosting today. Chris will be back with us the next 2 days. Lindy, thank you for coming on today. Modi will also be back with us tomorrow, so that will be great. Ski will be coming on with us tomorrow as well. So, see you guys tomorrow. Lindy, we will see you next week. And time to bring on Toast for some college basketball action. See you guys.
Absolutely. Best of luck tonight, fellas.
Thank you,
All right.
gentlemen. We'll
See
you
you
guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one, everybody.
See you guys.
All righty, let's bring him on. Bring him out. Oh, Vandy's out. Oh, you sent him a link and everything too? You sneaky dog, you. Yeah. All right. 1 second. Let me just set everything up real quick, and I'll get you guys going. 1 second.
Trev, how was your day today? Oh, no, I can't complain. Kid's a little bit sick. Sleeping with the iPad right now. Life is good.
Sleeping with the iPad. All right.
Anyway,
I didn't know your Twitter, Trevor, so I just put Trevor VDBJ. Whatever it was in the Discord, that's what I put for you, bud. So I'm sorry.
Sounds good. No, you're good. No worries.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you again, Trevor, for hanging out with me. No one really wants to listen to me talk to myself for 20 minutes about college basketball. So I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this.
No problem.
Let's get into it. Florida, South Carolina. Florida's been a straight moneymaker for anybody that's been playing them on a weekly basis for sure. I mean, they continue to just absolutely roll. A couple losses, one against Kentucky where they scored 100 on the road, and then the game against Missouri. Will take it for what you wanted. I think Missouri really couldn't miss. But what are your thoughts on this one? I know it's gross, but I kind of lean South Carolina. I didn't play it though, but I'm curious to see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I love back in Florida. I mean, they'll just run it up on anybody. It's pretty tough to hang with them when they're clicking. But South Carolina at home hasn't been terrible this year. It's on the road is where they really struggle. But you could argue at home, Bama ran it up by 20 on them. So Florida could easily do that. They did hang with Auburn at home. I mean, just at home they're a little bit better, but I can't actually put my money on South Carolina here, just knowing that Florida does have the ability to just run it up on them. Florida's going to have the advantage on the glass. They got Walter Clayton, Condon, Richards, Elijah Martin. I mean, they got guys that can score. They aren't great at free throw shooting, so that does kind of hurt when you're on the road and laying a margin, because the home team's going to be desperate to try to hang in this game late. So if I had to, I would take Florida, though. Just, we saw what Alabama did, and Florida does have that ability. But I just couldn't get to a side here that I could really clamp down on and bet.
Yeah, I feel pretty much the exact same way. Florida really hasn't had to be tested on the road. Not that I'm trying to make a case that South Carolina is going to be that test, but I do think that South Carolina is pretty comparable to what we've seen from Arkansas so far this year. So I don't think that that's Florida only beat Arkansas on the road by 7 or 8 or something like that. Again, I do think Arkansas is a better team, but like you said, Florida can really run it up on anybody. The only reason that I picked South Carolina, again, I didn't bet this, but South Carolina is going to run it very, very slow. And if they can slow this game down and force Florida to run through the half court, I think that's going to give South Carolina a little bit of an opportunity, because they've done two things really well so far this year. They've defended the 3-point line, and they don't send teams to the free throw line a lot, which should help. And when they do send Florida to the line, as you mentioned, Florida not a very good free throw shooting team at all. But if South Carolina just didn't have a turnover problem, it would make this game a lot easier to play South Carolina, but they turn the ball over a lot. Florida doesn't really turn the ball over at all. So as much as I lean South Carolina, it's purely on the number and the fact that they can try to make this game slow. But if Florida's on, which we've seen them essentially every game this season, they'll probably win by 15 plus. So
in South Carolina, they turn it over. They're not forced turnovers. They're giving it away themselves. So I mean, that could be an issue. I mean, like you said, Florida doesn't turn it over, but if South Carolina's just going to hand it to you every time.
And the fact that I also think that Colin Murray Boyles, though I think that he's a really good basketball player, I do think that Florida has multiple guys that can really match up with him. However they feel the need, whether it be that Chianu kid or the Condon kid. I mean, hell, even that Thomas Hugh or whatever his name is almost 7 feet tall. So Florida has the horses to send bodies his way. So, and which is, I mean, he's everything that South Carolina has offensively. So again, it's just a lean for me, but I'm sure that Florida's taking some money here. What's up next, Beef?
Alrighty. So next on the docket, we've got Kansas against TCU.
Oh man. I personally feel like Kansas should kill this team. I say that knowing that Kansas hasn't really been the Kansas team that we've expected. Haven't looked good. 3 losses on the road this year already. One of them to Creighton, one of them to Missouri, one of them to Iowa State. I would argue that the Creighton win looks even better now after the last week and a half or so. That Missouri is one of the better teams in the country. They did lose to West Virginia, obviously, but I'm just not really a fan of this TCU team. I really don't know what to make of them. They're one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country, facing a Kansas team that's pretty decent at shooting free throws, which that means a lot to me in a game that's 6.5 point spread now down to 5.5, or maybe it's back up to 5. So I assume that this game's going to be close. So I want the team that I can trust at the line. And when I say TCU is one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country, I really mean that. 355th in the country. And Kansas has done a really good job of defending the 3, and that's kind of what TCU uses to get their offense going in a way. So I put Kansas in a money line parlay with Northwestern at plus money. Beaver, you can put up Kansas for me, though, because there's no way in hell I would bet TCU here. As sharp as it would be, TCU coming off that really big Baylor win, maybe they have a little bit of confidence, but I'm just not there with this TCU team. I don't know about you, Trevor.
Yeah, if I had to, I would play Kansas. I'm debating it. We've seen Kansas defense just clamp down teams. I think I saw they're like 15-2 to the under this year. I mean, they're not going to let you run free and run up and down and get free baskets on them. Kansas doesn't force turnovers, but they don't foul you either. So, I mean, that you're going to avoid sending TCU to the line at points here. But Kansas's offense just hasn't looked incredibly sharp is the problem. And like you said, on the road, dropped Creighton, Missouri, Iowa State, which, I'm not going to really hold too much against that Iowa State win. It's a tough place to play there. But the big factor for me to get to Kansas here was that TCU just hit that buzzer beater at Baylor. Huge win. They were down double digits at some point in that game, and they came back and won on a buzzer beater in regulation. So this is a tough spot for them, but Jamie Dixon's always played Kansas tight for the most part. They have even gone into the fog and gotten wins too. So Jamie Dixon's familiar with this team. This Kansas offense isn't the elite unit that we've started to see over the past couple of years, but it would be Kansas or nothing. I know they don't get to the line much, but when they do, they're going to get fouled. And if this is a 5-6 point game late, TCU is going to foul. You got the number 1 Big 12 free throw shooting team at the line there. So it would be Kansas or nothing for me in this one.
And also, you'd mentioned Kansas, the best free throw shooting team in the conference so far. I'm pretty sure TCU is the worst as well. And not to mention, I also wanted to mention one other thing. I mentioned negative things about Kansas on the road and their losses. The times that they have played well on the road, they beat UCF by 50 and Cincinnati by 15. So when they're on the road, they've been just fine. It's just those upper echelon teams that they've struggled a little bit with. I mean, people aren't going to, not a lot of teams are going to go into Iowa State and win a game. So stuff like that. So it's Kansas, not a huge lean. I put them in them. I don't think they lose, but I don't really want to worry about them because, like Trevor mentioned, the offensive issues have been quite a struggle to say the least. So defensively, they're good. Maybe if you want to get crazy, a TCU team total under. I don't know exactly what it is, but something of that nature. Beaver, next game.
All right. We are on to Xavier at St. John's.
Oh my God. Trevor, start with this one because I have a bet in this game and I absolutely hate it because I hate Sean Miller. So if that gives you any indication of what I'm on.
Makes sense. No, I kind of like the Xavier team. Not as a whole, they've been not good this year, but lately they've been rolling. I mean, DePaul, whatever on that, but Nova and Marquette did beat Marquette on the road too, so that's a huge win. Now they're going to travel to St. John's. It is at MSG. St. John's has been all right there this year. That Nova game, last game for St. John's that played at MSG was tighter than that 12-point spread or final. But this is a big stretch for Xavier here. I mean, they absolutely just crapped on their legs the entire non-con here, losing games that they needed to. So now if they want to get back in on the bubble and whatnot, they've got to get some wins here. I mean, they did beat Nova Marquette. They got Connecticut, Creighton on deck too, and St. John's here. So they've got to win another game or two at least to kind of help their bubble. And I think they have a decent shot here. I mean, we just saw what St. John's did to Seton Hall, but Seton Hall was also missing Adewusu and Tommy. So they were already down. Seton Hall is just awful. You could maybe compare Seton Hall's offense to Xavier a bit, but Xavier's going to be able to slow it down. They've got size. No Davion Smith, I believe, also for St. John's, so that could hurt them. I'm tempted to grab the points with Xavier here. They're in a desperate spot. They need to keep this close at least and win this game. So I think 7.5 is a bit too much. I think this is like a 1 or 2 possession game late, and it comes down to getting a stop or St. John's making or missing their free throws for the cover.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm on Xavier. It's probably one of my favorite bets today, which is kind of scary. I've been terrible, so take that with a grain of salt. But shout out Texas yesterday, though. Thank God, Texas and Wake Forest. That was a good call by you with Wake Forest, by the way.
Sweaty.
It was sweaty, but I'll take it. I'll say a public service announcement. If it's a 1.5 point spread, guys, just take the money line, especially in college basketball. You don't want to have to worry about that shit. So I know a couple people lost on the -1.5 or pushed on a -1 or what have you, which sucks. But regardless, Anyway, as far as this game goes, I really, really like this matchup for Xavier. First and foremost, I think that they can play at the pace that St. John's wants them to play at. I don't think that playing at a higher pace is going to hurt this Xavier team. And the one thing that we know about St. John's is they really can't shoot the ball. They can't shoot threes. They can't shoot free throws, but they can run fast and they don't turn the ball over. And they play that really pack it in type of defense that really make you force shoot shots outside. And I think that's going to be a problem with the Xavier team that's shooting nearly 40% as a team. They're the top 25 3-point shooting team in the country. If they get to the foul line, they're one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country, shoot it at almost 80% as a team. Not to mention you have Xavier, one of the most experienced teams in the country. Fremantle's back and doing his thing. Ryan Cronwell's doing his thing as well. Coming off of a game against Marquette where Conwell only had 6 points. Previous to that, he had 34 against Villanova, 19 at DePaul. He had a bad game this last time that they played at St. John's, so I expect him to pick it up a little bit. And this St. John's team, again, I just feel like Xavier is a really good matchup for this St. John's team who, like I just talked about, doesn't shoot the 3 ball well. And Xavier, what's one thing that they do defensively is defend inside, and that's what St. John's likes to score. So, again, Xavier doesn't turn the basketball over. Maybe that rebounding is going to be an issue. If Xavier comes out cold here, I could see St. John's going on a little bit of a run early. But if as long as Xavier is not ice cold and losing they'll probably lose the rebounding battle. But if they're just not losing it by 10 plus rebounds at all points in this game, then I think that Xavier is going to be in this game. I don't want to say that they're live, but I'm very close to saying that. I think that they can really, really give St. John's some issues here today. So, like I said, I've been cold, but I really, really like Xavier here today. And that takes a lot for me to say because I hate Sean Miller with a passion.
And to your point, the rebounding is going to be an issue too. And Xavier, 353rd in the country, getting their shots blocked offensively, and you got St. John's 8th. That could bite them a little bit, and they're going to be forced to make jump shots and shoot from outside. So if the shots are falling for Xavier, I think they got a shot, and I think they will because they've been playing a lot better and defensively. But that's it's just a little area. The rebounding and just getting inside shots is not going to work out for them.
Yep, I 100% agree, because that's one thing with St. John's is that they can score, but they can't shoot. So they like to get up and down. Next game up, probably the game in the night. Unfortunately, I don't have a side on it. I know which way I would lean. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are here with Ole Miss and Texas A&M. I just kind of think they're essentially like the same team. Like I get there's differences and whatnot, but when you match them up side by side, I mean they're pretty much the same team. Am I wrong? I mean, I guess you could say that Ole Miss's offense is a little bit better, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know about you. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is a home spot for Mississippi. I mean, they just lost to their brother, Mississippi State, on the road in overtime the other day. But this Texas A&M team, like fading them, has not really worked out too well this year. For the most part, they're really good. Wade Taylor came back last game, played 24 minutes, but he still had 12 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, and 2 steals in 24 minutes. So he'll be ramped back up to 32 minutes tonight at least. I was initially liking Ole Miss last night, but there was a good point somebody had brought up that I kind of agree with. Ole Miss is coming off the Bama game on the road that they won, and then they just played Mississippi State. So they've had 2 back-to-back just tough games, and now you got to come home and you got to play this Texas A&M team who's going to play real physical. The glass is going to be theirs tonight. And I know they don't shoot the ball well, but they find ways. I mean, they'll rebound, they'll get out in transition if they have to. They'll slow it down, play physical defense against you. So I'm kind of swayed back over to Texas A&M here, but like you said, I just don't have a good feel on this enough to actually bet it. But if I had to put my money somewhere, it would be Texas A&M, and I would fade the home spot for Mississippi.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. You have a Mississippi team that's beat all expectations, I think, so far this year. Losing on the road to a neutral at Purdue is a really good loss. That Memphis loss, it is what it is. They didn't show up that night. And then obviously losing to their brother, like you said, at Mississippi State, their last game out. But they also have Missouri on deck, which has now turned into probably a really big game for Missouri. And then you have this Texas A&M team that, like you said, just continues to play well. And the thing that for me is that I lean Texas A&M as well. For me is that the rebounding edge for Texas A&M. I mean, they are the best rebounding team in the nation, and Mississippi State really struggles, especially on the offensive side, rebounding the basketball. And I just feel like you're going to get so many more opportunities offensively for Texas A&M than you probably do for Mississippi. So you're going to need a very, very efficient night for Mississippi to really control this game. And I don't know if they're going to get that against this Texas A&M offense. I mean, like I said in the previous game, if Ole Miss is just somewhat cold to start this game, they could be looking at a 10-point deficit the way that Texas A&M can play and rebound the basketball. So it's a heavy lean to Texas A&M. But like I said, I really could see this game going either way. And if somebody had a strong argument for Ole Miss, I really couldn't argue much with it. So again, a definite lean to Texas A&M just because I think they're a little bit of a better team and a better rebounding team. But again, I didn't bet this one.
Yeah, I like catching points with Chris Beard more than laying them too.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I think everybody in our whole Discord was on them when they played Louisville that game. That was a nice sweat-free winner. So, yeah. Next one up, Beaver. What's up?
This is going to be the Nevada-Utah State game.
All right. Utah State, man, coming off a huge loss. Shout out to the Rebs. I had them like plus 4.5 or something. They ended up winning outright. Utah State is probably on that list of teams that I talk about, or one of the better teams that nobody likes to talk about. I don't know what it is and whatever it is in Logan, but this team just continues. It doesn't matter who their coach is. They just continue to play well. I have a heavy lean to Utah State here in this game, Trevor. I haven't played it yet because the line was kind of jumping, but we're kind of catching Nevada in a spot where in a huge step up in class after playing a shit Fresno State team, a shit Air Force team, and a somewhat decent San Jose State team. I respect Tim Miles a little bit, but regardless, none of those teams very good, and now they're having to go on the road in Logan to a Utah State team coming off of a pretty bad loss. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I heavy lean to Utah State here.
I kind of like Nevada in this one.
Okay.
7.5 is a fair amount
agree.
of points. I mean, this Nevada team isn't that bad to where they're going to get blown out, but it's tough to fade Utah State at home after that UNLV loss. I mean, the last time they were at home, Boise State had them up against the ropes, and I'm not saying Nevada's better than Boise State, but I think they're pretty comparable this year. Like,
wasn't that? Like, didn't they win that game on a 3-point, like a 4-point play at the end? Okay, yeah. So that was like a very lucky win of theirs. Yeah.
That was a great game. But I mean, I think Boise and Nevada are fairly similar. It is tough fading Utah State off of the loss to UNLV there, but I think Nevada's decent enough to kind of hang in this game, and Nevada also needs these games bad. I mean, their big win is Santa Clara or VCU this year. So in order to kind of try to get back on the bubble, they're going to need to beat Utah State. They got San Diego, Boise coming up. So this is a big stretch for them. I don't think they're going to get blown out tonight. I don't think Utah State's going to lose, though. So I'm tempted to take the points with Nevada here. It's just a spot that I think they need to get up for and show up and have a good game here.
Yeah, and I would agree with as far as resume building for Nevada, because I mean that loss to New Mexico could be huge looming. They lost that game on the road, and again, even the game before that against this team against Utah State, Nevada had them on the ropes, and then kind of just let it fall away there in the second half. But again, yeah. So this was a hard one for me. Like I said, I lean Utah State, but I can't argue with Trevor taking the points with Nevada either. So. Yeah.
Glass.
What's up?
Glass will go to Nevada too. They'll have the advantage in this one with their size, and they just team crash the Glass. So they'll have that advantage there. So maybe they'll get some second chance opportunities and take some extra possessions away from Utah State in this one also.
Yeah. And I do agree with you that Nevada is a little bit underrated given what they've played and stuff like that. I would agree with you with that. They're probably better than what they've shown. So what's up next, Steve?
Yeah, and then Kyle usually adds like 2 bonus games that you don't do in the previous live stream. So I put Florida State, Cal, and Georgia, Arkansas. So
perfect. I have bets in both games, so you're the man. I'm on Cal here. The line moved against me a little bit. I think it's at 2.5 now, or 2. I played it at 1.5. I just, for me, you have a Florida State team traveling across the country that hasn't really looked anywhere decent on the road this year at all. Losses to LSU, NC State. They won against Miami. Who gives a shit? And then they lost again to Clemson. So now they're having to travel cross country after a huge win against a mediocre Georgia Tech team. I think Cal's is good, if not better than Georgia Tech for sure, especially when you have to travel in the travel for Florida State. And I think that Cal should be okay here. I know that Cal lacks a little bit of size in some points, especially compared to a team like Florida State, who's always one of the bigger teams in the country. But Cal does a very, very good job rebounding the basketball, so I don't really think they're going to be out of this game in that situation. Cal also shoots a 3-ball somewhat decently. That's one thing that I don't really worry about Florida State defending. I worry about them inside a lot more. And I also know that Cal has a pretty significant free throw shooting advantage as well. So the only thing that I worry about is Florida State getting up and running and pressing this California team. But at the same time, at home with Florida State, like I said, across the country, Cal 231 in average possession length. I think they slow this game down to an absolute crawl and play through that defense that I know that hasn't looked great, but they've also played some pretty damn good teams as far as NC State on the road and whatnot. So I know that NC State isn't a great team, but my point is that I don't feel like Florida State is very good. I think they've played some mediocre teams. Their best win over the last month and a half is Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh has been kind of hit or miss. I mean, especially over the last couple weeks. When's the last time that Pittsburgh's won a game? I know that they've played a somewhat decent schedule, but again, my point being is I just don't feel like Florida State should be favored in this spot. So I took Cal. It's up there with Nevada as one of my favorite bets of the day.
All right. Go
ahead.
All right.
I said Nevada, but everybody knows it doesn't.
I kind of like Florida State in this one. Stupid angle, but I mean, ever since Leonard Hamilton's gotten hit with those lawsuits, they've been playing better. They've gotten up for coach.
I get it.
Coach. But yeah, like you had mentioned, they can get out and run, the size and athleticism. I think they're going to cut off some lanes here, and the big one you got to stop is Stojakovic on Cal, because he can torch you and make it hell for you. So I think Florida State's going to have a decent game plan on that. They're both off of travel spots too. So I'm thinking of Stanford. Is Cal? Yeah, Cal was just in NC State. So they're both off of travel spots here. So I don't see real major advantage either way, but I tend to lean with Florida State's defense, their size and athleticism, the ability to get this done. But I do worry about the fouling. Might get a little home whistle for Cal here late, pushes them over. Florida State fouls a ton, so that could be an issue. But if Cal's not going to make their jump shots from mid-range 3-point, they're in trouble tonight because they're not going to get anything inside for the most part against this defense that's big. So it would be Florida State or nothing for me, and I'm tempted to fire it, but I haven't played anything on this game.
Yeah, I need that. I need that freshman Jeremiah Wilkinson to do some stuff tonight for Cal. That's my guy. Him and Blackshear. Come on now, boys. Plus, it's always fun to have a little late night action with the Cal games going so late. So, next one up is going to be a fun one. Arkansas versus Georgia. Unfortunately, I did it. I bet them. I'm not happy about it. It's disgusting. And if I'm being dead honest, every time that I try to be sharp this year in any spot, it fails. So it is what it is. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are, Trevor. I played Arkansas. I'm disgusted about it. I'll explain it in a minute, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
You can't really say anything to back up Arkansas any which way. I mean, there's nothing you can argue. They're bad. They're very bad.
And they're missing their best player.
Yep, they are. And this Georgia team just came off of the Tennessee and Auburn losses. So yeah, they get up because they smell blood in the water against Arkansas, but they've got Florida on deck too. So this is a rough stretch for them, and this is kind of just a sandwich spot. Bud Walton can be tough to play in at times, but I don't know how much energy is going to actually be in that building, given this team that Arkansas has given them this year. I kind of like Arkansas too. This is
so gross.
It's so nasty. They are a little public tonight, but I don't care. Like, they got to get one eventually. If they don't get this, I'm fading them against Georgia, Oklahoma, and then I will back them against Kentucky on the road. Cal's had that game circled, but before that, they have to get this game. They have to get this game. Otherwise, they're 0-6 in conference play. They can't have that. So I think it's a get-up game, but there's no logical reason to back up Arkansas winning this game.
Yeah, so I bet Arkansas, Boogie Flan being out obviously isn't great, but we haven't seen like a huge line move. Not that I feel like that he's a multiple point line move or anything like that, but I do feel like if the books were super worried about it, we would at least be getting Arkansas at plus money now. Maybe we are at this point. I haven't looked in a couple
According
hours,
to the comments, the Arkansas is +1 now.
Okay, so that would make a little bit more sense. But regardless, again, I can't make any great cases for Arkansas. All I can just tell you is that this is a really bad spot. I think it's a really bad spot for Georgia, as Trevor just laid out for you. And not to mention the teams that Arkansas has played since the beginning of January. How many, your favorite team or the team that you think is good, what do you think you're going in when you play Tennessee on the road, Mississippi, Florida, Missouri, and LSU? I mean, most teams in the country might beat LSU. Obviously, Arkansas lost that game by 4. But my point being is that most teams are going to struggle when you face those types of teams. I'm not trying to make a case that Arkansas is some great team. But at the same time, I do think that, I just don't think that losing Boogie Flan on a team that's already hasn't been that bad is going to be a huge bad thing for Arkansas. Not to mention the fact that I do think that Arkansas pace is going to help them a little bit. The Georgia offense, or the Georgia defense has been fine on the road. The offense has struggled mightily. I just kind of feel in my heart of hearts that Arkansas gets up for this game. So neither team shoots free throws very well. Neither team shoots it from deep. I think both teams match up. I think this is more of a rock fight than anything. I think Arkansas wins. Obviously, I bet them, but again, the line move, the boogie news doesn't help. But again, I still feel like this is like, I haven't been betting Arkansas. I've maybe bet them like once or twice over the last month or so. I can't even remember what game it was, but regardless, if you've been betting Arkansas, I'm sorry, but I haven't been bitten ahead by them a whole bunch. So it's really easy for me to pull the trigger on them. But if they do lose tonight, and it's especially if they're not competitive or, down by 10 the whole game or what have you. Yeah, I'll never bet Arkansas again. Until Kentucky.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're gonna win that. You're gonna win that game. You can argue maybe Arkansas they don't have a turnover problem, so that's about the one good thing that you could do. But injury bump game too. I mean, Boogie's out. I mean, time for someone to step up and
Ewing theory.
Yeah.
Patrick Ewing theory, baby. So
and reverse CLV on Arkansas. So you got 3 things that possibly.
That's working in my favor. I'll take that reverse CLV. The way the thing's been going the last month for me, I'll take that. CLV has been a bad thing. So I think that's it. I think we got through the show without a hitch, huh, Beaver?
Yeah, I know. Very smooth show. I just texted Kyle. He's very happy with the product today. So that's all good. I didn't get to mark which polls won or anything like that, and there was an abundance of games. So no community parlay or anything of that nature, but we will be back for the midnight stream. So I'll see you guys at midnight with Toast and possibly Trevor too. I don't know what the deal is with that. I guess we'll speak with him after the show. And yeah, hope you guys have a